show?
Doing awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you, Angie. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I've always been doing big into archery, and my dad said, "Hey, you guys want to start an archery store?" Because that's how I always did.
Hi, Andrew. Yes, of course. Let's do this together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. Yes, I'm so excited. So, per usual, hello, everyone, and welcome to the E-Comm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Maff, and today is our live 100th episode. So if we say anything that offends you, I apologize, and we can't edit it, so it's going to happen. And here we go. So, obviously, I have brought together what I feel like are the Avengers of the e-commerce industry, and so I hate to ask everyone to do this because I would like to assume that everyone already knows who everyone is here. However, we're going to do the usual, and we'll pretend that no one knows who you are. So I'm going to go around the room. Ladies first, of course. So, Destaney, who is the founder and co-founder, of Better AMS. Destaney, I would love to give you a chance here to let everyone know a little bit more about you and, of course, more about Better AMS.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Destaney. I have been in the Amazon space for almost 6 years now. Everything I've ever done has been on the advertising side. So everything, sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display, DSP, all of those fun things. I've worked with everyone and anyone, I feel like, at this point. Our agency manages around $75 million a year worth in spend, and that's across both CPG, startups, enterprise, and we really just specialize in strategic leadership with Amazon advertising.
Beautiful. So you're going to be our Amazon PPC expert throughout the entire episode. Greatly appreciate you having on the show. Brittany Schmidt, our director of Shopify over at Bold Commerce. Brittany, how are you doing? You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I've been in the e-commerce space for about 14 years. I started in D2C for brands like Canada Goose and Hugo Boss, limited brands. And I did that for about a decade. And then I moved over into the SaaS space. So now I work with Bold, and we focus on selling software to help e-com brands sell more to every customer and convert better and stronger. And so that's been quite the journey. Sorry, my eye is leaking on live webinar. But yeah, we work really hard with thousands and thousands of brands. I think over time, we've helped over 700,000 stores sell more on Shopify and improve their businesses. So it's been a journey for sure. And it's exciting to be on this side instead of the D2C side. I feel like there's a lot that I can help. I can sympathize with the struggle of trying to sell and optimize for your customers. So.
Welcome. Thank you also for being on the show. Mr. Valentin, how you doing, buddy? CEO over at OmniConvert. You want to tell us about yourself and OmniConvert, obviously? Oh, no, we can't hear you. Yes.
I think you can now, right?
There, now we can.
Excellent. So I'm really glad to be here. Thanks, Andrew, for having me. I'm representing Europe in the 100th episode of the E-Comm Show podcast. Thanks for having me again. I'm an export kid from Bucharest, Romania. I've founded 4 companies. I'm a former e-commerce entrepreneur, made 2 exits, and I failed completely, miserably with my own agency. And now I'm running OmniConvert, which is an A/B testing and conversion rate optimization solution for e-commerce companies. And I'm also an advocate, an evangelist of customer value optimization. So I became obsessed about improving customer lifetime value in e-commerce, and that's why I'm writing a book. And I'm really excited about how the future will unfold in this domain.
Beautiful. Definitely got a lot of questions for you, and super excited to dive in. Hymie, of course, last but not least, you want to tell us about yourself? What's going on?
Thank you for having me. Hymie Zabede. I've been an Amazon seller, selling on Amazon for the past 12 years, always private label. I sold my business maybe about 4 years ago. And ever since then, I opened up a boutique agency where we focus on building up clients' sales on their private label brands and focusing in on, maximizing the potential of each SKU.
Beautiful. Super fun. I love that we got Amazon covered. We've got the outside of the Amazon world covered, which is where the rest of us play. Super fun. For all of those of you who don't know, because I got asked this several weeks ago, and someone was like, you introduce everyone, you never tell anyone about yourself. My name is Andrew Maff. Obviously, I'm the founder and CEO at BlueTuskr, and we are a full-service marketing company for e-commerce sellers. So I work with all these great people all the time and all their different platforms and services and all that fun stuff and make sure that they come in together in one place. Hence why I like to host this show. But I also just love hosting the show. Thank all 4 of you and everyone who's watching right now for joining us today. It's been super cool. This is our 100th episode. We are doing this one live. We're going to see what happens. Before we kick off here, I obviously want to thank our sponsors on this event, Amazon's Buy with Prime. If you have not given it a shot, please feel free to reach out to either myself or check out Amazon's Buy with Prime. Obviously fantastic for an omnichannel marketing solution. And there, I gave them their love, and I appreciate them doing this with us. And I want to do a very, very big thank you to the BlueTuskr team who has helped us out, obviously getting through all these 100th episodes, between our design team, our video editors, our audio editors, our podcast coordinators, our social team, our email team, everyone that was helping out, kind of making sure that this podcast can happen. Throughout this podcast, a couple really interesting things. We have had just under 20 different businesses that were on Shark Tank. And I always apologize to them because I always called them Shark Tank contestants. It is not a game show, although sometimes it feels like one. But they were on the show, and we were just short of having almost exactly $100 billion in annual revenue for everyone who was on this show collectively. Very cool, very awesome, very humble to be able to speak to all these great people. And now today, I'm joined by who I'm just referring to as the Avengers of e-commerce. And so now, why don't we dive in and let's get to the fun stuff. So I've got a bunch of questions here. We're going to keep a bunch of things relatively general, and we're just going to kind of keep this as a big old open conversation. I've got some more specific stuff around everyone. But one of the main things I really wanted to touch on, the first thing that was definitely most interesting that I'd love to hear from everyone's different perspective, because we all kind of come from different corners of the e-commerce world. Had this episode happened 6 months ago, if not more, we would have been under a theory that we might be into some kind of recession, whether it's global or whether it's simply just in the States or something. And it seems that we may or may not have come out of that slump. I'm curious for everyone here today, how do we think that Q4 is going to shake out compared to what we originally thought it was going to? And without everyone just kind of bursting out, because I know we didn't do this in an area, I'm just going to go in order of where I see you guys on my screen. So Valentin, would you like to kick us off with that?
Yeah, so I personally think that e-commerce is going strong. At least if we look at the latest numbers from US Census, we've seen that e-commerce is still 7.5% up year over year, while the overall retail is only around 1%. So basically, what we are looking, if we are looking at e-commerce like a business model, not solely as a channel, which is a debate for sure. What can I say is that e-commerce is going to prevail. So I don't think that we should be that worried on the e-commerce side of things. However, we don't know what's going to happen with the global economy. We are seeing these larger things like deflation in China and all that dance. So basically, if we are looking at our small bubble in the whole scheme of things, I think we are still on the safe side.
Beautiful. Hymie, thoughts?
I think there's always a lot of fear of that, recessions and things like that. But also people need a place to shop. Amazon's not going anywhere. I personally buy everything on Amazon. I just got a pair of socks, a pair of underwear. If I need to buy something for my kitchen, people are not going to stop buying, at least the basics of what they need. And that covers a lot of different things. If somebody's selling cutlery, glassware, clothing, like people need those things. They're going to buy it. And shoppers on Amazon, people are getting more and more used to shopping on Amazon every day, and it's not going anywhere. So I think it's only going to get better and better.
Interesting thought. Destaney?
Yeah, I would say stronger than what we are forecasting, especially at the beginning of the year when there was a lot of dark sky planning, especially when it came to like budget utilization. I do think we've seen a softening in just year over year numbers pretty much across the board, but I think that was to be expected as there's a stronger return to brick and mortar and as competition has increased. So for a lot of smaller brands who maybe can't keep up with like the spin numbers and the awareness that needs to happen to have kind of that omni-channel exposure, we saw decreases in year over year growth. For a lot of the large brands that were able to maintain and keep up and they had that diversification off of Amazon, I think numbers have been very, very strong, and we're still seeing a lot higher returns than what everyone was expecting.
Brittany?
Oh, I'm going to have the unpopular opinion. I think just based on what we see with both with brands, but also with just people, things are more expensive than they were 6 months ago, and we're continuing to see that accelerate. And so typically the economy trails what the Fed has done. And so I think it's going to be tighter. But I think there's hope for brands, and that if you're providing value, then customers are going to continue to buy the thing that you're selling. So you still need socks. I still needed a garlic press. I got it off Amazon a couple weeks ago. Like, there's still things that we need. I think really honing in on the fact that maybe the extravagant spending or the nice to haves might trim a little bit, but there's still a healthy e-com channel to be had in Q4. So not all dire, but.
So I got to say, I actually think that I'm siding with Brittany a little bit on that. And I know it's kind of the negative side of things, but in my opinion, in e-commerce, we had 2020 that ended up being a lot better than we had originally anticipated, at least for the e-commerce industry. 2021 was great. 2022 was kind of like, okay, it's still in a pretty good spot, but not as great as we want it to be. And then this year it was fear of recession, clearly not happening, but that, or at least not anytime soon, but then basically inflation. And I feel like what might end up happening here is we had all of these sellers that did so great for 2 to 3 years, and they're now comparing their numbers to the prior years when that was clearly kind of an anomaly. So they're rushing their capital into trying to catch up to catch those numbers that they used to have. And so that kind of is a really great segue into my next question, which is why I host this damn show, is what do we think is going to happen in Q4? Because if you continue at that rate, are we going to see a lot of sellers all of a sudden just not make it through the end of the year? Or do we think that they're going to end up starting 2024 on a bad foot? What's the consensus there? And floor is open to whoever wants to answer that one. Anyone?
I think it's like any business, people are gonna fail. This is a regular business. Too many people make it like Amazon or e-commerce is just like a very, very easy thing to do. You're running a business, and a lot of thought and a lot of strategy goes into it. And there's gonna be people that win. There's gonna be people that lose. But like I said, people are always going to have a need for basic things. If I need phone chargers, I'm not going to go waste my time and go to a store right now. I'm going to buy it on Amazon and know that it's going to come to my house in a day or two. If you want to continue to grow, there's so much room for growth, and I don't see that Q4 should slow down unless you're not strategizing, or your competition is just, they're doing a better job. They're spending better on ads. They're doing something that you're not doing, but the potential is there. You could do it if you do everything right.
I would also hop in and say the brands that are thinking in the short term and that have only been in the business for a few years, they're the ones that are seeing issues, because again, comparatively, they're looking at year over year numbers when COVID was a major catalyst for e-commerce. All of the brands that we talk to that have been in the space for over 5 years and that understand what their long-term goals are, and they stay focused on that 3, 5, 10-year plan, there's a lot less concern for them, because they know like business changes quickly. E-commerce changes 20 times faster than that. So it's almost expected. I think the numbers that we saw during COVID inflated. That was not norm. That was 100% inflation because no one could leave the house and they're having to order online. Anyone who thought that would maintain was wrong. Like everything opened back up. Some people like shopping in stores end of day. So now that we're seeing again back to the normal and the omni-channel approach, the curve is looking pretty close to what it was looking at for the e-commerce growth forecast 5 years ago. So I think it's just thinking long-term instead of making short-term decisions based off the last 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. But what would you say is the best thing to do for them to be able to prepare for Q4, knowing that some of them are looking at, comparative to last Q4, the one before that, or maybe this year just wasn't as good as they originally wanted it to be. So, obviously trying to make up for lost ground is not an ideal situation. What do we all think is probably the best thing for sellers to be doing, especially now that we're basically a month out from Q4 starting?
Not to make decisions on a quarter-to-quarter basis would be my feedback, because it's something we're getting
Preach.
as well. Sales are down. I need to sell through inventory. I'm like, okay, well, in order to do that, we need to increase your advertising. You probably need to lower your price. You need to do all these things. Okay, well, my margin's going to be terrible. Like, well, I'm sorry. We're not going to be able to match your margin of last year. So again, it's what is that goal for the next 2 years? What are you trying to accomplish? If you want to continue to grow and take up market share and use Amazon as a new customer acquisition channel, okay, we're going to have to sacrifice 1 quarter of lower margin so you can continue to grow. If you're using it as bottom of the funnel and you need to diversify your budget, then do that. But everyone needs to be making decisions from the long term and the top down, rather than trying to look at how do I make up ground in 1 quarter. That's where you get into a bad position, because you do bad job forecasting your cash flow. You don't look at your supply chain appropriately, and then you're more reactive in Q1, making up for Q4.
I can build on that a bit. My personal take is that e-commerce is not going to be for everyone anymore. So my personal take, and I have a pretty simple thing. I mean, imagine that in the US there were 3,000 car makers back in the 1920s. How many car makers are now? So it's not going to be for everyone, because simply put, it's like with the mobile apps. We can't have 500 mobile apps, right? We have a mobile app for playing music and whatever, right? So at the end of the day, if we are to look at how the market will evolve in the next few years, and it's not about Q4, it's about the long game. So if you are playing the long game, I think what you should be doing as an e-commerce decision maker, you should be looking at your numbers way better than ever before, because cash flow is crucially important, and cash flow is reliant on what you are doing. The decisions from today are going to affect you, not tomorrow, but in the next few months, which means that if you don't have the product intelligence and the customer intelligence, and if you're not crunching your numbers, chances are that your competitors are doing this already. And if the demand is going to be lower, and if the competition is going to be higher, which means that your customer acquisition costs are going to be higher, that means you should pick your battles way better than before. So looking at your superstar products and looking at your superstar customers and identifying where the market is going, I think is the best way that you should be, you have, that's your best thing that you should be doing. If you've been doing the same things, so if you are doing the same things like before, chances are that you are not going to survive in the next few years. Now, depending on how big you are, because it's the debt slow, it's the slow debt, right? So basically, if you are now, your margin are eroding bit by bit, and if you are not noticing how to treat that, you are basically setting yourself for some slow debt in the next 2 years, which will end up, let's say, if you're an entrepreneur like myself, sometimes you just have to quit. By the way, it's a great book called Quit, which is the opposite of grit, right? So maybe you should reconsider what you're doing with your life if things are not as you wanted them to be.
One of my thoughts in Q4 is also kind of very interesting. I personally find Q4 to be one of the best times for new customer acquisition. However, the problem then being that you see all of these sellers that really they think it's a race to the bottom. So, hey, I'm going to do for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, 30% off my entire website. I'm going to get all of these customers in, but you're going to completely crush your margin. And if you don't have the proper retention in place, you are basically spending all this money to get people to shop with you, and then they're just not going to be back the following year. So one of my questions is, what is everyone's theory on how Q4 should be treated when it comes to things like that of, the massive sales really can't continue, especially if we continue on the rate that things have been going from an inflationary standpoint. However, the consumer wants to get that deal right now, whereas the seller just simply is not in a good position to be able to do things like that. Plus, with the retention side, being able to continue them through 2024. But what's everyone's theories on how to approach standing out in Q4 and offering some kind of campaign or sale or anything like that without it truly just crushing your business?
So I just want to also, the first question originally when you were saying how to really prepare, aside from the discount, if you're not ready now by Q4, you have like a very late start, and you really need to take a very good look at your listings, making sure that you have, proper images, that your listings are optimized, like you're already a little bit late to the game. And then also you have to really catch up now. So you're going to have to spend on, Destaney can probably tell you, there's so many different types of ads and targeting types that you're going to have to spend a little bit more to get that data now quicker because you weren't doing it before. And for discounts, I don't like to make discounts unless I have a game plan about what that discount is going to get me. So is the discount because I want to sell a lot of units and then I'll request a lot of reviews and that'll boost it up? I have to see, like, what am I getting? Because I'm definitely not making money off of the discount. Or maybe on Helium 10 or something, I'm tracking my keywords and I see one of my keywords is in the middle of the page. And I know that if I have a badge with a deal going on and I'm going to increase my conversion rate, that keyword is going to get a lot of sales over that week. And it's gonna get a nice lift. So like you really have to look at everything. There's no point of doing a flash sale or a discount just to lose money or just to increase your BSR to feel good about yourself. Like the whole point is making money and building up the long term. Everything in the long term.
Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be a race to the bottom, but I also think that there's a place for discounts. Q4 also has trained certain shoppers. Like you can say I'm not going to participate in Cyber Monday because I don't want to mess with my margin, but brands expect discounts. So they are going to choose to spend their dollars. Customers are going to choose to spend the dollars at the place where they think they're getting that value. And so I think you've got to be strategic. You need to know what you can afford to discount. Maybe it's not a deep discount. Maybe it's strategic discounts where you have better margin or where you have too much of that inventory, but it's not the whole store. Maybe it's daily deals. Maybe it's a couple sale items in an ongoing category on your shop that you're doing regularly, or it's BOGO. So like buy one, get one half off is actually only a 25% off discount. It's not a 50% off discount, but psychologically it feels good. So there's a place for it, but you do need to be strategic and time them appropriately. I think there's also other places to make money to make up for those discounts. So for example, we work with a partner that does like video upsells, like greetings. And so you can charge someone $5 to send a video to their mom when they send their chocolates. And so maybe I offered 10% off on that $50 box of chocolates. So that cost me $5, but maybe I can charge them $5 to send that video. And now I've just made it back and it feels like a value add. And now like I feel good as a customer because I just sent my mom a box of chocolates in this heartfelt video. And really it cost me a little bit more operationally to print that out on the slip, but like bang for your buck, it's how you package it. So I think there's creative solutions to not racing to the bottom.
I would also say that there's the whole aspect of playing to the platform you're selling on. At the end of the day, Amazon and Walmart value discounts and pricing. So that's why Prime Day has been so successful for brands that truly invest in a Prime Day promotional plan, is because they get their own search segments that stand out from everyone else. So yes, lowering your price across the board may not be a good idea because it devalues or dilutes your brand. But if you know that the platform you're selling on values a price cut, you may want to find a way to build it in because you're going to get preferential placement on that retailer's site. So I think there's a lot that goes into this conversation. There's a million different variables to look at, but at the end of the day, like you have to play to the platform you're selling on.
Yeah. Well, it's actually a good point because I was going to ask both you and Hymie about your insight on that, because obviously Amazon's throwing a wrench in there now where we've got a Prime Day in October. So now you've got a Prime Day in October, you've got Black Friday in November, you've got obviously the holiday season in December. How are you two telling the clients you're working with, like, hey, here's how we're mapping out lightning deals, coupons, things like that, outside of your standard, from an advertising perspective, your listing optimizations, that kind of stuff. But in terms of a campaign strategy around those different deals, what's your theories on when to push and pull with that added holiday from Amazon?
I would say Brittany hit on the key point, which is the customer psychology behind the promotions and the deals you're running. That's something that we really try to keep in mind with this extended holiday period. Black Friday and Cyber Monday has always been known for you wake up the day after Thanksgiving and you go and buy Christmas gifts. So typically the customer's going to those platforms looking for Christmas gifts. Prime Day psychologically has really shifted to being more about consumer goods and just general technology, general things to buy. So we always try to keep that in mind when we're setting up our deals of, hey, when do we want to discount what? It's how do we stack when our customers are going to be more likely to convert and buy our products with how we can bring them into our listing. Now, there's going to be times where maybe you don't want to compete directly in Black Friday, Cyber Monday traffic because everyone else is also discounting. Now you're just on a retail shelf being compared to everyone else. But I think it's all just about timing and what's best for a brand. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution for that.
Yeah. Hymie, thoughts on that?
So So I just want to say I love Prime Day and Cyber Monday and all these holidays, like with the discounts. And whenever those days, whenever it is those days, I'm only looking for things that have a sale price or that have a deal. I'm not looking for anything else. I'm looking at the Prime Day deals. But also you have to look at, how much inventory do you have on this item? How profitable is it now? And like, what's the long-term goal of it? So also you could look at, like, if you're selling a lot of different variations and different colors, you could strategically pick different colors that maybe you're overstocked on, and maybe, you're paying an extra inventory fee on it, or you just need to speed up the momentum for cash flow. You could do it strategically and, have it work in your benefit. You can't just blindly do deals, but when I shop, I'm looking for a deal. So like, if you're not doing any deals at all, you're missing out on a lot of sales.
Let's pivot to off marketplace for a second here. Looking at, traditionally websites, more or less where some people have started. Some people who I'm sure are listening start on Amazon. We go the other direction. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I'm going to start off with Valentin. I got a specific question on your end, where right before Q4, you are essentially the king of customer value optimization. So you're going to be the one who can also make sure, hey, own it, man. You're going to be the one who can help make sure, like, right as Q4, you're getting into these areas. Yes, we're talking about whether we're doing discounts and there are certain directions you can go in, but how can you also optimize the overall value of that customer as they're coming in? What kind of key things do you look for when you're helping these people get kicked off on their websites?
Yeah. So first of all, the first thing that you should be doing is to track customer lifetime value and to segment your customers so that you can see which are your best customers. Now on Amazon, you can't do that, but you have this privilege if you're on Shopify or if you have your own customer base. If you have your customer base and you can segment them based, for instance, I'm a really big fan of RFM, recency, frequency, and monetary value. Then you could see which are the best customers that you had in the last Q4. And then you could look at the products that have this type of purchase frequency. If it's an annual purchase frequency, then I don't know, if you are selling winter jackets or stuff like that, then you might have this type of customers which are cyclic, right? So you could address them differently. Another thing that you should be doing is to look at how to steal the start, right? So for instance, instead of just acquiring customers, maybe it's way more cheaper to generate more leads, which means you could accumulate a larger amount of customers. You could give your existing customers the privilege of buying upfront at a better price, and you could gradually plan your deliveries according to that. Because if you do your own, let's say, pro Black Friday, which we are seeing here in Europe pretty often, right? You do this private event like Amazon is doing as well, right? So Prime Days for their loyal customers, but why don't you do it for your own customer base? So if you are anywhere north of 10K existing customers, you can address them differently, you can persuade them, you can make them feel precious, and in this manner you'll be able to address them properly and to improve your numbers. Because basically once they are buying, maybe you shouldn't destroy your margin completely, right? Because you do know that they have a certain value and they can buy with 25% discount, not with 40 or something like that. Another important thing that I would suggest in Q4 and basically going further is to collect zero-party data. So it's such an underrated method, right? So you could even do this package insert, to have customers that are known. If you have reachable, addressable customers that are really known, then you could orchestrate a customer journey which is in your terms, not in Amazon's terms. So basically, whatever you are selling, if you give them like a printout, a QR code, which gives them a benefit of an extended warranty or whatever, depending on what you're selling, then you could address them properly. And when they are making themselves known, let's say I own a pet and it's a sterilized cat and it's whatever. So if you know this type of things, then you can build different journeys. And when Black Friday comes, then you could be way more relevant than you've ever been. So this type of blending zero-party data with first-party data is the way to go further, not simply throwing money on ads.
Very good point, which kind of segues me a little bit over to Brittany, because I know we talked a lot about the lifetime value of the customer, which is obviously a incredibly underrated KPI that I find a lot of sellers don't look into as much as they really should be doing. And when we're talking about customer lifetime value, there's absolutely nothing better than having some kind of subscription plan in place, which obviously is a great reason why we have Brittany here on the show today. So Brittany, I know subscriptions are, I would say, one of the sexiest things that a lot of people want to get into, because you have that projectable cash flow coming in. You have all those benefits of subscription plan, but having a solid subscription plan in place that actually retains customers is a process and a chore. What is your theory on getting something like that in place that is also an attractive offer for people during Q4 that some of these sellers can offer?
Well, I think it depends on what you're selling and it depends on what group you're in. I think a lot of people assume if I stick a subscribe and save on my site, I'm suddenly going to have a successful subscription business. And that's true for some very, some brands, like some products that you need all the time, like coffee filters maybe. But for a lot of us, you need like that added value. And I think Jay Myers, one of our co-founders, talks about it all the time, that you need to give them something more. And so building in that value. So maybe that value is that for people who pay you kind of like a Prime member, like maybe you have a membership on your site and they pay you $100 a year to always get 25% off when they shop on your store. I mean, that is kind of an element. Or you could get into the game, even if you're late in the game now, gifting subscriptions is super big, and being able to convert those customers and the gifts that they've been given into net new. I mean, you view that as a customer acquisition. So again, going back to that chocolate example, I love chocolate, so I share it with my mom. I buy her subscription. So now she's your net new customer. So now you have two of us. And so getting into the gifting space as we go into Q4 might be a new place to dabble in without having to maybe strategize with a lot of time and invest a lot in like the front end work that you might want to do to create a custom workflow there. But yeah, there's a lot to be had. There's a lot of opportunity. So
interesting segue back over to the marketplace team. Thoughts on the subscription aspect within Amazon, considering it's, in my opinion, very, very difficult to actually provide any kind of additional value outside of your traditional subscription. Yeah, if it's a water filter, you can get your water filter on a regular basis, that kind of stuff. But when we think of, your traditional website and having a subscription plan, it could be a surprise box, there could be extra stuff in it. There's all these additional things. What are your, Hymie and Destaney, what are your thoughts on the subscription options within Amazon? And do you know of ways that sellers can kind of leverage that functionality without it just being kind of a one-off?
We're definitely limited. I do think that loyalty is something that Amazon's working on building out on a much better level. Small things like customer engagement and follow-up emails and DSP unlock a lot of different targeting options when it comes to subscribe and save in general. How you target a audience specifically to bring them into a subscribe and save funnel, what type of analytics you have, what return on engagement looks like. That's something that's recently been rolled out into Amazon Advertising Insights and Planning. All of those are opportunities to bring people back, because that's what Amazon cares about right now. I do think we're always going to be limited on control and creativity because there's always going to be people that abuse the system. I think everyone likes to position it as Amazon's the bad guy and they want to own the data. But in reality, Amazon cares about the customer, and the bad guys are the sellers that take advantage of having too much connection with their customers. So excited to see what is opened up and what's available. And I think that the people who are doing those small things right, like getting into those programs early on, are going to have an advantage, but we're always limited by what we cannot do.
I am very interested to see how Amazon can expand on that, because one of the other things I wanted to ask, so Amazon is to me, it's a fantastic customer acquisition channel, but its ability to give you any kind of real tools to retain customers or even build a brand is challenging, because these people, they place an order, and depending on the product and how it shows up in their box, how is that really going to build the brand? So having people coming back to Amazon, you have a little bit less control over that. How do you two kind of help these sellers with ways of being able to build a brand on Amazon, even if they're not available off marketplace?
You gotta build a beautiful storefront, beautiful packaging, something that's vibrant, so that when they get your item, when they receive it, they really like your brand. For example, I sell a lot of food and also like plastic utensils and things like that. And those are things that, people like to subscribe and save. They got it, they're happy with it, and they want to just, get a small discount and not have to worry about reordering it. Like I subscribe to my deodorant, my toothpaste, like everything is on subscribe and save. Why do I want to have to remember to reorder it? It just comes automatically. So I love the subscribe and save tool. There's not, we don't really have so much control over, it's a very basic thing that they give us, but it's definitely a great tool. And then eventually, if people love your brand, and, you can start doing posts, and you can start have a beautiful storefront, and you have beautiful EBC. It's a real brand, even if it's only on Amazon and you don't have your own website, it can still be a real brand that people recognize and they fall in love with.
Yeah. So it's Destaney, you want to chime in on that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, so it's a interesting segue into, obviously, okay. So I'm clear. Buy with Prime is sponsoring the show. However, I made it very obvious to them, we're going to speak freely, because I know I have people on the show that are strictly on Amazon. I have people on the show that are strictly off Amazon, and I kind of dive in the middle of that thing. So I would love to hear everyone's opinion on the pros and cons of Buy with Prime, because I find that it's helping sellers start to build their brand off Amazon, but at the same time, it is also taking away from what sellers have with on websites. And I know there's pros and cons from a pricing standpoint, and obviously it's only in the States right now. But what is everyone's current opinion on where they think that's going to end up going, and whether they suggest it for certain types of businesses or not?
There's a lot of trust with Amazon. That's always my biggest selling point. I know that can be a hard pill to swallow for brands that, hey, my site looks amazing, it's going to do better. But when you add that Buy with Prime legitimacy, it does help. Unless you have a perfect site that looks professional, no concerns, then you can maybe do without. But I know very frequently, especially when I'm served meta ads, I go and I type in, is this site real, before ever making any purchases, no matter how good looking the site is, because there's a lot of drop shippers and a lot of people who throw up a terrible site and then they're just not trustworthy. So I think it really depends on, I would say, like the maturity of your company. If the conversion rate difference is strong enough that you should do it because it increases your value, then yes.
My take on this topic is that you should always be testing. So basically, I have this. I'm brainwashed. In my entire life, I was doing experiments and I tried to see what's the outcome. By the way, I have a Google sheet when I have all the important business decisions with their hypotheses and what was their win rate, let's say. What have I got out of this decision? And if you're not looking at this as an experiment, I think you could be losing a lot of money. For instance, if you are a brand which is pretty unknown, like you've said earlier, Destiny, so you should be testing out and see what is the conversion rate uplift and how much am I actually winning or losing on short term and maybe on the long term. However, what you could do is to simply personalize the website. So let's say if customers are coming from your email, so you have existing customers that you're addressing, you could simply hide the buy with Prime button and leave them buy with your through your direct channel. So you could do a lot of workarounds if you are smart enough and if you want to use the website experimentation. So I'm really bullish into testing out and seeing if that actually works, because at the end of the day, it's about being profitable.
I personally think, I don't know so much about websites, but as a customer, I would be much more comfortable clicking an Amazon button than having to enter in all my information. I have to look for my credit card. It's so much easier. I trust Amazon. That's why I shop on it. Everything is just saved automatically. It's the easiest thing. So to go onto a random website and then to have to put my credit card in and then find my credit card, it's just not worth the hassle. I'm not sure financially how much, to the website owner, how much they lose or make, but as a customer, I love that. And I would always choose a website that has that over if there was a similar one where I had to enter in my stuff and it's just a pain. It's just convenience.
Brittany, what are your thoughts on that? Because the other thing I was thinking from your end is I know it's just one more button, but now we're talking about like, here's all your payment options. Here's your upsell opportunities. Here's your subscribe. Here's your buy now. Like, at what point are we loading up these product pages with way too much information? And have you had experience with the buy with Prime thing? Like, what's your thought on it?
Yeah, I mean, they can get really busy really, really fast. And so I think you do have to kind of weigh out your options. And, does buy with Prime have to be every product on your website? Can maybe some stuff be Prime, some colorways that are really common that people love, and then you have your exclusive colorways or seasonal patterns that you have on your brand site? I think there is a case to be made, if done well, to have your brand site and to be in control of the entire user experience, and to craft those emails and craft what Valentin's saying. Like, I love the idea of testing. But I get Prime, I think there's a huge majority of adults in the US that have Prime. So to act like Amazon's evil makes no sense. I totally love Amazon. But I do find as a consumer that sometimes I'm like, well, let me see if I can get this off Amazon, because I feel bad buying everything from Amazon. And then sometimes ultimately I'm like, well, you know what? I know I'm going to get this in 2 days and my kid's birthday's in 2 days, and I'm not willing to risk the thing. So I'll buy it off Amazon. But there's other times when it doesn't matter, and I love the brand already, which we've talked about. I already know that this is the thing I want, and so I'm willing to transact on the brand's site there. So, I mean, I said it a lot, and it sounds cliche, but it's like, what value does a customer get shopping with you on your website versus Amazon? And if there isn't one, then customers aren't going to shop on your .com. And so you've got to figure that out for each brand individually.
Yeah, every time we've done it, we've had a really nice improvement in the overall conversion rate when you're factoring in your buy with Prime sales. However, of course, there's fees behind that. They're not as crazy as your FBA fees, but there are your fees. But the thing that we've found really that I personally like about the button, which is why I was okay with them sponsoring the show, was basically it's a nice way to bring everything in one place, and you still have that control over it. Because if you get someone to your website who is kind of interested and they're like, I don't really know yet, that added Amazon brand awareness and that added trust of I'm going to get it in 2 days and I know their refund policy and all that stuff, that helps every single time. Now, you still want to add all your features, your bells and whistles to your site to get them to convert on the site. But the thing that we've started doing that I love is we actually start to just segment out a list. So we're Klaviyo partners, so we just integrate everything into Klaviyo. It integrates with Google and Meta. So basically, if we do a product launch on Amazon and you have that 60, 90-day honeymoon period, you just take that whole audience and just send them directly to Amazon, cater to that organic thing, and then go back to your website. So it's a real nice way to kind of get your business to work together holistically, instead of what I think is where a lot of e-commerce sellers are messing up, which is treating these channels so siloed of, Amazon and then Walmart and then my website and eBay and Chewy and all these other places where you sell. But in reality, the consumers, the whole journey is so fluid, and digital to me is becoming very much more traditional marketing, where it's not as easy to track things as it was 5 years ago. We're going to get to a point where it's just you can't paint the picture of an ROI for a billboard, and you're not going to be able to do it soon for a lot of other things that you do digitally. So I think it's a very interesting kind of omni-channel approach as time goes on here.
I just want to throw one thing out there. I don't know if it's going to upset anyone, but whenever I see an ad anywhere for a certain product, or if I want to buy a certain product, if I see it in a store, I always look on Amazon to see if it's the same price, or even if it's a little bit more, and I know I'm going to get it in 2 days, and I'll just buy it. Like, I always look at the item to see if it's on Amazon, and then you'll see the reviews. You'll see, it's just my go-to thing. So.
You're screwing up my attribution, Hymie.
Sorry. I don't want to upset anyone.
Okay, looking forward. We'll go the opposite direction this time. Brittany, thoughts on what you think 2024 is going to end up looking like for e-commerce sellers?
That is a hard question. I think it's going to be, conservatively, like if I were advising someone, I'd say go into 2024 with your eyes wide open, be a bit conservative in your projections, and order accordingly, like for inventory. Don't go too deep on stuff. It's really tempting, and we've talked about it already, to say, we had 300% year-over-year growth. Historically, I should be able to anniversary that. I think there's a lot we don't know. So I would plan strategically going into 2024 with conservative estimates across the board, but also eyes wide open to the exciting new things to try. So if you haven't tried Amazon, maybe it is time to try Buy with Prime. Why not experiment? The Q1 is a great time to test things, because it's kind of low risk. Like no one's Q1, well, not no one. A lot of people's Q1s aren't their biggest quarter, but there still should be significant traffic to your site unless you're selling coats or Christmas decorations. And so you should have some time to do that. And maybe going into the start of the year, like reset. If you're not ready right now and you're not doing a good job going into Q4 and you're feeling uncertain, set your sights for Q1 to do it differently and start testing early instead of waiting till the last minute.
Yeah. Destaney, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say some of the biggest recommendations we are making with the brands that we're working for is how much more important creative is, especially on a platform like Amazon. How Amazon is starting to prioritize brands more than just items on the page. They're really starting to say, hey, these are the people that are spending the most money. These are the people that are connecting the best with their audience. We need to give them preference on the page. We're also seeing social commerce be pushed a lot more with Inspire, and some of the new ad types are being utilized. Off-platform sponsored products, sponsored brands with scrolling custom images, sponsored display videos. All of these things are allowing the brands who are great at creative, great with UGC, great at social commerce to have an advantage. So we're pushing that a lot more. It's no longer just about price or being the quickest to create a new product, because as we've seen, someone will knock that off really, really quick and they'll probably undercut you. So how do you make sure your product stands out on the shelf, and that's the product that gets the most clicks and converts the highest?
Hymie, theory?
For Q4, like I said before, it's any business. How many wholesale businesses are going to win this year? How many wholesale businesses are going to lose? It's a competitive market, but there's so much upside. And like Destaney said, everything has to really be perfect. You have to make sure that your images are perfect, that you have EBC, that you have, if all your competition has videos, you need a video. You're on the same shelf as all these guys. They're comparing you right next to each other. And also stock. You don't want to have too much stock, but you also don't want to have too little stock, because if you run out of stock, you're going to disappear off the page. And if you run low on stock, you're not going to be in enough warehouses and enough fulfillment centers, and not everyone's going to get quick shipping. You got to really prepare and really study the trends and how you're doing, and make the best guesstimate of how much stock to get there. But you also have to really look at all the data and make sure that everything is perfect.
Yeah. We lost Brittany. I don't know where to go, but Valentin, thoughts on the next year?
Well, man, I think in 2024, the e-commerce, the direct-to-consumer companies which will win are the ones that will abandon the idea that e-commerce is a business model. it's just a channel, and I think the ones that can afford to go on the bricks and mortar route would be the ones that will win down the line. The ones that will be there in the real life, let's say, because the competition is so hard right now. And if they have the retention, so if they have products that have the right stickiness rate, if they are seeing that the customers really love their products, so let's say depending on the verticals, so if the purchase frequency is high enough, they should be going offline. They should be going to build bricks and mortar, because I've seen companies that won with this kind of strategy. On the other hand, I think the 2024 is going to be really hard. I mean, it's going to be harder than 2023 in terms of competition for the same reasons, right? So we are seeing that the consumers are more reluctant in the home improvement. We are seeing that the high-end products are not as appealing as they used to be. Customers are way more cost conscious, which means that on the long run, some companies will simply vanish. So basically, that's my let's say projection for 2024. But the ones that will win big, because they would be accumulated. We will see some M&As. I think there will be some consolidation, because the retailers, the big retailers, which know the offline game, let's say, they are really bullish into digital. So we have both of these type of customers. We have hundreds of customers which are omni-channel retailers, and we are seeing that they invest heavily into digital. Mm-hmm. And which means they will make a hard life for companies which are doing just a fraction of their total turnover.
Completely agree. There's definitely a theme that we obviously all hit on. It's nice to hear you all say it, because it's more or less, I say it in layman's terms, but at BlueTuskr, it's something I say all the time, which is every category, every product, and every business owner are all wildly different. So for us to get around and discuss these kind of things, they're all more or less like the end of the day, the answer is it depends. And when you're looking into 2024, you can do projections all you want. If you set a budget in place, it does not mean that you have to stick to it. You can adjust every day and it's just about staying nimble. In Q4, in my opinion, it's all about customer acquisition and retention to set you up for a better year the following year, and just keep doing that until you can't anymore. And then you sell and you're rich and you're living on an island somewhere. But thank you all for joining us. I'm going to do the usual now and give you all an opportunity here to let everyone know where they can find out more about you and more about each of your businesses. So obviously, Valentin as well, I know you got a book coming out. So tell us a little bit about where we can find out more about you, more about your book, and of course, more about OmniConvert.
Sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm writing every day over there, or I'm trying at least. You can find us on omniconvert.com. So we have a tool to help e-commerce companies improve their conversion rate by doing A/B testing and surveys. And now that Google Optimize is sunsetting, we will have an amazing offer for everyone out there in September. And you can also find us on Shopify Marketplace. We have an app which is completely free to analyze your customers, to do RFM segmentation, to track NPS, and to build audiences so that you can address customers better. As of my book, here it is. After 18 months of hard work, it was the hardest project that I have ever done. We've printed a few hundreds of this for our clients and close partners, but the official launch is going to be on the 20th of September. If you're interested, you can go to theclvrevolution.com. You can read the first chapter and you can get notified when it's launched.
Beautiful. I'm getting a book. Destaney, where can we find out more about you and, of course, Better AMS?
Yeah, so feel free to check us out, betterams.com. But more than that, we post a ton of content on YouTube at our Better AMS channel, and definitely follow me on LinkedIn. I think that's probably where I have the biggest audience for all the content that we post.
Beautiful. Brittany, how about you and Bold Commerce?
Yes, you can find us at boldcommerce.com, but also in the Shopify App Store. We've got 8 different apps. And if you're not on Shopify, we have a checkout product on other platforms. that's doing amazing things. LinkedIn is probably the best place to find us and myself as we kind of journey through this, but there's lots of opportunity to maximize every customer that hits your store. So definitely look for us on Shopify.
Love it. Last but not least, Mr. Hymie.
You can follow me on LinkedIn. I try to be as active as possible. Always message me there, or you can go to my website, hymiezabede.com. And I try to respond right away.
Perfect. This was fun. We did it. 100th episode live. No major technical issues. That's the best part of this.
Woohoo!
Thank you all for being a part of this. Obviously, as usual, thank you everyone who tuned in. Please make sure you do the usual and rate, review, subscribe on whichever podcast platform you prefer, or head over to theecomshow.com to check out all 99 of our other episodes, or to keep an eye on the next 100 coming out. But as usual, everyone who's here today, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all next time. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Congratulations.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecomshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the E-Comm Show.